What you're describing is the cycle of abuse. Have you ever looked at one of these? This is the cycle of abuse wheel, and it identifies 4 stages. You have tension building, you have an abusive incident, followed by a reconciliation phase, and then a phase of calm. And in abusive relationships, this cycle repeats over and over and over again. When you have those 2 to 3 good weeks, that's the reconciliation calm phase, but it doesn't last. It will get shorter and shorter. And then the other 2 stages will get longer and more intense. And if you're new to my page, my name is Jackie, and I'm giving real examples of emotional abuse tactics so that you can spot them in your relationships. It took about 3 to 4 months after I moved in before the abuse started. I would just notice like this random shift in energy. So I would ask him if everything was okay, and he would say that he was fine, but he would continue to be short with me for the rest of the night. My intuition would tell me that something was wrong, but I wouldn't dwell on it, and I would just continue on with my day. Because I did my due diligence, I asked if he wanted to tell me, he would. And if he doesn't, that's on him. The awkwardness would last like 2 to 3 days, and then eventually it would come out that I did or said something that he perceived as rejection. We'd talk about it and come to what I thought was a mutual understanding, and then the event would be over. We would be back to our regularly scheduled program. A few weeks later, the same thing would happen. This happened a few times over the course of 6 to 8 months. A few days of crappiness followed by a few weeks of greatness. You say to yourself, well, it's normal to have conflict like this. No relationship is perfect. We all have conflict. But as the frequency of the cycle increases, so does the intensity of the tension building and explosion, meaning the abuse tactics would get more harmful. Maybe in the beginning they gave you the cold shoulder for an evening, or they raised their voice. Now they're being passive aggressive and critical and hurtful. When you call it out, at first they deflect or minimize or deny or blame. But now it's turned into some middle of the night explosion that bleeds into the next 3 days because they feel justified in treating you like shit, and they're waiting for you to apologize. Simultaneously, the happy times start to get shorter and shorter. Even when you have reconciled and they say that they're good, you don't believe it. You don't believe the fight is over. You know that it's going to come up again. And it does, 2 days later. This time, they're name calling and they're slamming things around. And if you manage to get out of the house, they're sending you hateful text messages and 15 voicemails, threatening to end the relationship and then begging you to come home. Before you know it, the 2 to 3 weeks of good times and 1 to 2 weeks of bad times turns into 1 to 2 days of good times and 5 to 6 days of bad times. And in my last relationship, I was lucky if I got 24 hours of good before I was immediately walking on eggshells again. If this pattern has already started, I promise it's a matter of time before it escalates.